A warm welcome. You're joining us here at Hyde Park on Other Derana 24. Once again, we're here to discuss a number of matters, but with the promise of discussing governance and Sri Lanka's challenges faced and how Sri Lanka is going to manage challenges emanating from the geopolitical situation. I've invited to our studios a gentleman who's quite vocal about corruption, administration, and Sri Lanka's relations with the superpowers of the world. I've invited to our studios Sri Lanka's former High Commissioner to India, Secretary to the President between 2017 and 2018, former Chairman of the Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Sri Lanka, and formerly Governor, Eastern Province, and advisor to the President. All this, Mr. Austin Fernando, a warm welcome to you. Ayubowan.
Ayubowan.
It's nice to see you here. Last time we met, we were talking about a book you had authored.
Yeah.
And this time, I think a lot of changes we see in not just the governance structure or how people have voted, but even how the superpowers are dealing with Sri Lanka. We see a lot of changes, but I think you will be able to break all this down to us in a more simpler form. I'd like to start off with the change we saw from the presidential election to the parliamentary election, and how the administrative and governance structure is today.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. I believe the election, there were two elections. One was the presidential election, where the legal situation is that we must have 50% plus one. To be elected as the president. But then the way how the election process was going on and the campaigns were going on, we knew that it will never happen. And then we had Mr. Anurukumar Dissanayake coming as number one, but not with 50%. Then we had the secondary election system process, which helped us to find the final winner between from Mr. Sajid Premadasa and Mr. Kumar Dissanayake, and then he was the president. Now, when you consider this, I think that was right there. I think because the way how people, the electorate was considering the electoral situation, I think it was not a surprise that Mr. Anurukumar Dissanayake won the election, but the majorities and things like that were the issue. Then after that, when we went for the parliament election, the victory of the presidential election was very much material for the people to be deciding in favor of Mr. Dissanayake, his party and his team in the NPP. And they got 159, which was, I don't think even the President Dissanayake expected 159, because they were asking the electorate to fill the parliament with their people, and they were never saying that we are so sure about it. And in fact, at one stage, I think it was their party secretary who said we will get about 120, 125 or whatever it is. So therefore, this is an endorsement of the failure of other parties, who are, they call it the, in Sinhala they call it Prabhu and non, that is people who were, the people who were in power were coming from a separate group of people who were very powerful families, money-wise, long-standing type of politicians. They were defeated by young, youthful, shall I say, team of people who were having only 3 electorates in the previous parliament. For them to become 159, from 3 to 159, is an unimaginable victory. So therefore, I think this shows that the electorate wanted a total shift from what we were. So that is it. So therefore, we will have to have changes also happening in the same way. I think that will happen.
Do you think that will happen?
I think they have started doing things, but it's, you don't expect this to happen overnight. And it's a very difficult task because the problems we have economically, politically, socially, and the way how we are thinking about attitudinally, all those things will take a little time to get set for a total transformation. But they expect transformation.
I think the entirety of Sri Lanka, regardless of whether they voted for the incumbent president and his government, genuinely want the change that change every citizen aspires for. But I'd like to go back to your comments on the political elite, the leadership change, and how you've seen much of the changes we've seen in Sri Lanka's political history as well. But did you see this coming at some point?
Yeah, I think the way how the established political elite, their parties, were getting split. You know, we say the UNP got split to SJB and UNP. Then the UNP, then the SLPP, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa's party, that got split into Namal Rajapaksa's and I think Ranasongas or whoever it is, they were supporting the president. Then if you take the Tamil parties, that's also elitist party in a way. Although they are not all the elitists like the UNP or the others here in the south, but they were also elitist party in a way. Now they also got split into separate, TNA got split. Then the SLMC, Mr. Rauf Hakim's party, that also got, there are people who went with Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe and some people with Mr. Rauf Hakim. So likewise, I think almost all the parties are getting split. So therefore, that split in all those parties meant that they cannot be coming into power easily. And then this split over there, the NPP and the JVP, really the core is JVP, but the face is NPP, they were not splitting and they were not going for alliances. All those people who got split, they were going for alliances. President Wickremesinghe went with the SLPP and several others, I think a lot of parties. Then Mr. Sajid Premadasa, he also had about 20 or 30, I don't know the number of people. They were also alliances. These are the only people who are not going with alliances.
They looked inward while the others looked outward to strike alliances. But how do you really analyze the northern vote, especially when the Tamil politicians, the traditional Tamil politicians, failed to win those votes? A southern politician was able to, for the first time.
That's a very, very good question. Because we on the election day, we have a habit of having, even today in the morning they had I going to take part in a Zoom meeting with some of our friends in America, and even some of them joined from London and Australia and various places. So on the 14th morning we had a Zoom, and really after the Zoom only I went to vote. There was a gentleman by the name Chandran, Bobby Chandran. He is a Tamil gentleman living in USA. He has been to Sri Lanka a few weeks before the election. He said, although Anurukumara Dissanayaka got only 27,000, some number 800 or some votes from Jaffna last time, this time his vote will be 50,000 to 100,000 anywhere there, and he got 80,000. Because the people, although they didn't vote for him at the presidential, people decided with the election result that there's no use of going with the established elitist parties, and then therefore, and these people were a new setup. Because if you listen to President's policy statement made in the Parliament, he made it very clear that we have no discriminations. Whether you are this race or religion or whether you speak this language or that language, we have no discriminations. So the people in the north, they were trying to get relief from successive governments against discrimination. And here's a person who is saying that I am not going to, he said that after winning. But before that also he went to Jaffna, and wherever he went, He made it very clear to the minority committees, people, the Tamils and Muslims, that I will not have it and I will treat everybody alike.
But to be able to trust a southern politician, how do you think that really worked out?
When the competitor to this gentleman have failed to listen to their grievances, then people think, why not go with this gentleman and see? I think that was one important reason why he got all the anti-discrimination. And he made it very clear, even later. If you listen to his speech at the anti-corruption day, it was the whole thing was on discrimination. Discrimination in the legal side, in the administrative side, in the political side, in the society, discrimination. So therefore, I think anti-discrimination vote was very well seen.
So this unity vote, how do you think will transform in shaping Sri Lanka's future? We've been dealing with racism, dehumanizing certain communities at times, whether it's on social media or whether it's outside. How do you think this will really shape how the society comes together?
Yeah, I think I think we really require a large, very big chunk of attitudinal change. And this attitudinal change is not only in the president and the members of parliament or the cabinet ministers. No, it has to be there everywhere. Even your media, how good you are at making this attitudinal change. The priest, Buddhist priest or Catholic priest or Maulavi or whoever it is, how they can contribute to this. Then even the artists, whether they can draw things and whether they can have dramas and make songs and all that and things like that, whether culturally, whether you can attack this problem of discrimination by attitudinal change. But it is not only that, it is educationally. Whether we can make changes in the education system that we don't consider. Now, when I was a young student or when I was a young boy, over 10, 11, 12, that time, we had Tamils and Muslims in our class, burghers in our classrooms, and we were speaking in Sinhala, or English or whatever it is. So whatever we were, everyone was a machang, like those days. But do we have it here in schools now? Now we have Sinhala Mahavidyalaya, Demala Mahavidyalaya, like that we have things, and then teaching. Even in Colombo schools, in some of the schools, they have medium, the medium of instruction is this language or that language. But those days it was, everyone was learning in English, and then later when Sinhala was made the official language in Sinhalese, and there are, now I had...
But what do you think, Mr. Fernando, is the solution to this? Is it, there's this popular statement that these Colombo schools or the major schools should no longer be given that sort of prominence, and that prominence be given to every school across the country as well? Or is it the education, or is it bringing English education? Let's understand what this is.
I think there are several ways of doing it. Why not we make Sinhala children learn Tamil and Tamil children learn Tamil children learn Sinhala and Sinhala children learn Tamil, and then the English language, whether you can make it compulsorily taught in schools. But there are difficulties. You will not have teachers and various facilities, but these things have to be developed. Step by step. I don't say that tomorrow you can start teaching English in every school in Sri Lanka, but then it can happen, because we should have that education. Then how the clergy, what they can contribute, how the newspapers and TV and radios can communication systems, whether they can do that. And otherwise, the one problem with the Tamil people have in the north is when they go to a police station, they are asked to give a statement in Sinhala. Their statement is written in Sinhala, and you have to sign that there. Yeah, it's discrimination. Will you like to? If you go to a police station, if you are asked to give a statement, and somebody writes in Tamil, and give it to you and say, sign it.
Certainly not if I don't understand the language or if I can't read.
But then they do it. So why not to change some of these simple things like that? We must do, otherwise we will never achieve
And the
it.
English language to conquer the rest of the world. I mean, we've seen India and even China, we've seen the younger population taught English, and some of them are translators to their major political leaders as well.
Yeah.
And in Sri Lanka, while we're trying to juggle with the Sinhala or Tamil language issue, do you think we've forgotten the English language and to improve English language literacy?
I think in the cities it is not that very bad. But in the villages, still, you don't get children who can speak very well when they go for an interview and all that. They can't face the interview board because they consider that your language skill is not there.
Mr. Fernando, now this government came on the promise of cracking down on corruption and gaining revenue through unnecessary spendings of the government. So internationally too, the government's recent move to reduce some of the privileges granted to ministers, to former presidents, have been hailed, and even the move to look at new use for presidential houses and bungalows had been discussed. What is your opinion here? Some say, no, these presidential houses are there for a reason. But this government is of the strong belief that, no, we have to have some commercial use for these unnecessarily available properties.
I think I have been to some of these presidential palaces in Kandy, in Norelia, in Colombo. We have gone. I think there are some of these buildings are really old buildings that have a special architectural value. Now, if you go to the President's house in Colombo or Norelia, all those things, that is one thing. And what the government is going to do, according to media, is that they are not going to close all the ones, but they want to keep the Kandy one and Colombo together, because Colombo one is being used on and off.
Right.
Kandy one is not very much used, but there is there. But Norelia one was used by President Jayawardena and President Premadasan and all. They were using it quite often, in the sense, not months and months, but for a week. Sometimes they go there and come back. I think they don't want to have it. But then the way how they are going to use it has not been finalized.
The committees.
As a committee, I don't know what the committee would say. But the committee, whoever goes into detail, must keep in mind that some of these buildings are really, really great architecture, of great architectural value. So those things have to be maintained. How you are, if you give it to, is it tourist business, if you give it, whether it could be returned one day in the same way as it had been given, or whether the condition of the building would be that the very same. Anyway, they can always have some systems to make that happen. Then about the quarters and all that here, I have been occupying this quarter when I was Secretary President, and when I was Secretary Defense, I was using one bungalow in Colombo 7. Now those are spacious buildings, but I don't know what they are going to do with this committee. I don't know, someone was saying that we will be giving it for tourism purposes. But for tourism purposes, if it is given, once again, whether it will come back in the same way, number one. Number two, whether for business it will be valuable as a business place is a matter which has to be worked out. These are things which you can make. But about the privileges, now Justice Chitrasiri Committee sat on it and they have given the report also. In fact, someone asked me from the media what I consider about the MP's salaries for that matter. I personally feel MPs should be paid a good salary, because they are not going to do any other job. And they also have wife and children to look after, family to look after. They also have to be spending money on various personal and official matters for which they want money. So and somebody say if a MP is living in Potuville, for him to come to Colombo for the sittings, what amount of money he wants. And can he come in a small car all the way from Pothuwil? So I don't think that giving some sort of a transportation system for them, allowance or some vehicles or whatever it is, has to be given. Yeah, I don't think, because they are going to be serving the people, but then whether you need 50 million worth car or a 5 million worth car is a matter which has to be decided, the value of it, and whether you want a pickup vehicle or a Benz car to be an MP is a different situation. Certainly. That someone has to work out. But I think giving them a reasonable salary or allowance or whatever you call it, and giving quarters. Now if you imagine, now there was a MP, a lady who had been elected from Badul, Manuel or somebody. Ambika Manuel. Now she had, I saw the house Samuel, in which she had lived. Now she has to come all the way from Badulla to Colombo for sitting, and then where is she going to stay? So she has to be given
a practical approach.
Yeah, so I think there are bungalows which have been put up for the MPs in Battaramulla. So you have to give them. And even about the wheel, I am having a very, if an MP goes there, they finish the sittings at wheels at 12 o'clock and start at 1 o'clock. How can that particular MP have his lunch if you are not given lunch? Then the lunch, only thing is, lunch has to be paid. There must be some payment given to them, and that payment should be the really value of the lunch. You can't give a 1,000 rupee lunch for 250, don't give it. But then you must have a lunch allowance given to them for the sittings in that case. Some sort of arrangement. I don't know what Justice Chitrasiri has recommended, because that report is not public right now.
Another question to add to that. How do you think this government will tackle the pledge of cost cutting and efficiency of the public service and other efforts as well from a governance perspective?
Yeah, I think what they intend is they say there are 1.3 million public servants. And then they say we will bring it down to 700 to 750,000 or something like that. Now, how you are going to bring down is one thing. And whether this has other trade union aspects and humanitarian aspects, that is separate. Other thing is, I also agree that we have more than the required number. But then it has now, I saw in one of your programs someone saying that they will bring down to 750 or 700,000. But then 5 months back, somewhere in August or so, about 3 months back, 3 or 4 months back, when Udesaneviratne committee, when they gave the interim report, they said we will bring it down to 1 million, a little less, 1 million. So, 1 million in August, in November or December, it is 750. I don't know what it will be when they implement it. But I think that this government has started this digitalization. So I am sure that will have to work, that will have to help reduction of people. But then this was tried not with the name digitalization, but at one stage I remember when Lalit Veeratunga was the Secretary President under Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa. He wanted to start something to do with email to be used as to go on this decision-making process to be made efficient and quick and all that. He tried it, but I think it didn't work. It didn't finally work. Now digitalization also, it will take a little time. So the government's intention, final intention will be cost cutting, wastage and reduction of numbers and all that. But you can't expect that to happen overnight, because it has to be, because people should be trained, and the various I think right now there's a World Bank consultation which is happening. I know it is, one of my friends is working there. Now they are trying to be thinking of digitalization, how to get the get the systems work out. So these things will take time, but definitely it is necessary to do that, because I think reduction of the numbers is definitely required.
Talking about reduction of numbers, there's also the government's pledge is to reduce corruption and bring back some of the monies that are due to Sri Lanka but are hidden elsewhere. Now, recently too, we saw 3 former presidents discussing this and the difficulty of bringing reacquiring such funds. But recently, Cabinet passed a proposal to amend the anti-crimes bill to allow stolen assets recovery in the country. How practical is this currently?
I think it's an excellent intention. If you can bring the money which have been taken. Now, first of all, you must prove that the money has been taken away, number 1. Number 2, they must find it is there. The money which was taken from here is here. So these are things, once again, it takes time. And in other countries, I have heard this Mr. Siabok DG, Sarat Jaman mentioning this at meetings. That it will take a fairly long time, and then all the monies that have been taken may not be recovered. That is also there. It will take some time, because if I am, we say, German, and if I had given a bribe to you, or if I had taken your money, you see, if I am a German living there, and I have this money, these transactions take place in several ways. Number 1 is the money goes for your procurement. You are a Sri Lankan minister or ministry, you are procuring. Then the value is increased and the money goes there, and I am a German who is supplying this. I keep part of it there and send the goods to the value of the things which you get. So your account is increasing to that amount of money. So that is there. Now, if you want to bring it, first of all, it must be proved that that transaction took place. But then it's not easy, because these rogues, they know how to do it in such a way that people will not be able to easily recover that. Second thing is, I think for political reasons, we have been saying that this money has gone to some place. And I could remember one of the candidates in some district, the lady candidate, she was saying that they are calling me this Kumari because I have been fighting for this one. Later she said, no, I didn't know about it. You know, it's this is what we heard and all that. It was not she was not very much certain about the transaction that had taken. Very recently I heard, about 3-4 days back, someone saying that the money is not in that particular country, it is in some other country.
So there should be some sort of initial investigation.
The investigation part of it is very, very tough.
And the laws here, do you think should be upgraded to support such investigation?
I think the law is ready. It has not gone to the parliament, it will come I think soon. And then when it comes, but of course implementing is a very tough job.
Do you also think the administrative structure in Sri Lanka and the governance structure is able to support the kind of change that the people have voted for and the NPP government has been continuously promising?
Yeah, I think all these governments have been promising, not only the NPP government, the previous governments also said, we will catch these people, you know, in 2015 we said that, and then earlier also it was told. So only thing is people have been saying, but it has not been happening. So, but this one government is very, very determined to do that. So it's a matter of how I saw Honorable Harshana Nanayakkar, the Minister of Justice, who happens to be a son of one of my schoolmates. He was saying that we are getting the star, that World Bank assisted program to help us. So it is not easy, but it can be done. I think they are determined to do it. So we'll have to wait and see whether they will succeed or not, to what extent they will succeed, how far they will succeed, how long will they take. And it is definitely not a thing which can happen next week.
And on that note, we'll take a short commercial break here at Hyde Park. We are in conversation with Sri Lanka's former diplomat to India, Mr. Austin Fernando. Welcome back. You're joining us at Hyde Park, and we are in conversation with Mr. Austin Fernando, a former advisor to the President and former diplomat to India. Speaking of India, I think it's time we talk about India's influence in Sri Lanka, and also how Sri Lanka will continue a balanced approach of relations with India, China and the United States. But first, former President Ranil Wickremesinghe mentioned when President Anrukumara Dissanayake came to office that the vision document with India should be implemented in full. What is this vision document, and why is it so important for a former president to talk about an individual agreement with India when there are many more agreements that a president, a government will be entering during their term?
The vision statement, they call it, vision, not a vision document, it's called vision statement. The vision statement was something which was unveiled in May last year. This year, I think, he went to India as the president last year or this year, I can't remember, 23, I think. So he, 23. So he went and discussed, had discussions with Prime Minister Modi. And they prepared the document. In that document, it's very, I think, for the economic development of the country, it's very good. But they are thinking of looking at various items. I think I can take one example. They have something to do with Trincomalee, for instance. About Trincomalee, they say, we will develop the port. We will have for the line from somewhere in South India to Sri Lanka, send in fuel. Then they will have the fuel tanks, petrol tanks over there. And like that, it will be a hub, energy hub they call it. So it's great things to be done in Trincomalee. And we really deserve that type of situation. But then he says, we will be going along in the path of Indian path. We'll go along with in the Indian path. The moment you say Indian path, all those proposals about development are really great. I think if India is going to do that with us, it's fine. But the problem is, the moment they say that it will be on the path taken by India, then it becomes reserved. It becomes reserved for India, which may upset other people who are working with us. Maybe even, I don't know about Americans, but Americans and Indians are fairly, they are working in close liaison like most cases, although they have problems with Adani recently.
Yesterday's announcement of Adani cancelling its or withdrawing its request for funding for Sri Lanka's Colombo West terminal from the US DFC.
553 million.
But does this also mean they will still work together on Sri Lankan affairs?
Yeah. That was only in the Western terminal. But this thing, I'm talking about Trincomalee. Now, all those things are very great development aspects. But with India, that means you have to go with India and do that. So the Indian foothold in Trincomalee will be very strong. I have nothing against someone having the foothold and developing the thing, but it should not embarrass the government of Sri Lanka with other people who are worried about A or B having a foothold in place X or Y.
But will this foothold be too heavy or too large in Sri Lanka that even the people might resist? Because there have been continuous opposition from SEPA, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, to too much Indian involvement. At sometimes these were politically motivated. At other times these were genuine concerns by the people whether India's encroachment in Sri Lankan.
I think India being the big brother of Sri Lanka, which is just located here, we have to accept that geopolitical importance of India, and it cannot be ruled out. It cannot be ruled out. It is not only for us. It is for Bhutan, it is for Nepal, it is for Myanmar, it is for Bangladesh. For all those countries, India is a strong partner of development. So therefore, you can't run away. I think we are thinking of today's problems with India, or we are considering about India. But you know, in 1986, President Jayawardena, he went to India and asked Mr. Rajiv Gandhi to send the military to look after, to safeguard his government 8 months before he did the Rajiv Gandhi Jayawardena Accord, and asked the IPKF to come 8 months before that. He went and asked for this. So that is the amount of pressure, at least amount of interest we have about Indian support.
But in recent times, or maybe at least February 2022, during the visit by US Undersecretary for Political Affairs, Victoria Nuland, there were media reports of a discussion for a military base in Trincomalee, although these were on official sources, confirmed sources that were relating these. A joint military base of the United States and India in Trincomalee. You mentioned about Trincomalee, but what are the risks here?
Yeah, I think that Victoria Nuland's request for this one, luckily it was not accepted and it was not done. But that shows that was done. Now she wouldn't have said an Indian and American joint with him without asking India. That means India had agreed to this. And I am sure that the Indian government, somebody would have had discussions with Victoria Nuland on this matter before she said that. Now, that is a very dangerous thing, to have a joint, the American and Indian military base in Trincomalee means it's the sovereignty and all those things which we love in Sri Lanka will be gone, because that luckily it was not taken up. And that happened in February, and in March, in May, this other one is coming. So people suspect, oh, it failed and there is another way of doing it. So that type of thing is not good. But what the vision statement says about development, it's welcome. It's welcome, but having the partner as one country, specific country, means it will be a
So does this mean Sri Lanka should tread carefully when receiving assistance from India and working with India? President
not only with India, even with Americans or Chinese or Russians, we must be very careful.
The President's visit to India is scheduled in days, and this will be the President's official visit to India as President of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. Of course, previously, before his appointment, before he came to power, he was visiting India and some other countries as well. And it seemed like these countries were working with him even when they were the 3% in government.
I think almost all the countries around India do this. Now take President Muziu of Maldives. We thought that he was going to be joining hands with Chinese, but finally he had to come to India, and Indians gave 30 billion Indian rupee worth of this thing, another $400 million. The whole package was about $750 or $800 million to attend to his economic ills that had happened there. So therefore, people who try to show that they are with China, they also go to India. And then all these countries, in Bangladesh, when Sheikh Hasina, the former Prime Minister, she was doing everything in liaison with India. In 2019 and 2024, she did sign a lot of agreements within the two countries when she was being criticized so badly, saying that these are very Indian-centric agreements. Still they signed. But of course, they looked after. When she was thrown out, they brought her and she is given refuge over there. But then sometimes they don't give. Now, for example, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, when he went, he was the first president in recent times who got assistance as on the first visit. He got $450 million straight off when he went there. But when he fell, when he had difficulties, Indians never came to help him because they didn't help. No, he didn't help. He was being asked to give the Eastern Terminal. He was being asked to give the tanks. You know, some negotiations were going on. It was not successful. But Sheikh Hasina gave the things very successfully, and she was looked after. So they have their you know, their interests are different. It doesn't mean that if Indians do something for A, that they will do it the same way to B. It is not there. It all depends on the relationships.
What are your thoughts on the 13th Amendment to the Constitution? You mentioned recently that the incumbent president has adopted a commendable approach. We saw former presidents' approach have been quite varying. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa promised 13 plus. And then we saw former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa taking a different stance, while Ranil Wickremesinghe as president was supportive of the implementation of 13A. But at the same time, there's the northern vote we're talking about, India as a major partner in this.
Yeah, India is the author of 13A, you know. That is what happened. But then 13A, as you are right, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa said 13A plus. Then President Wickremesinghe, before elections, he said 13th Amendment without police powers. Mr. Sajid Premadasa went and said, I am going to implement the whole thing. These are all political gimmicks, you know. You know, they went and said that. And then I think President Gotabaya Rajapaksa is one person who said, no, I'll go on with this majority consent on this matter. When he was asked about it, he was straightforward, I think, military man he was. So he did that. Then right now, 13th Amendment, when the MPs were summoned very recently by the President, I didn't see any straight-off statement. I saw President's Facebook, in which he said that I met the Tamil MPs and discussed about the most challenging problems they have in their areas, but not a word about 13A. Not a word about 13A. And 13A, very recently, it was Mr. Tilwin Silva who has said that when we have the new constitution, we will not have 13A. But it doesn't look that the Tamil MPs are also very interested in. Probably the President might go and say, I checked up with the MPs. I don't know what he would say, but I'm guessing. I discussed, no, they are not worried about 13. Only you are worried, like, you know. So, and the other thing is, I have a different idea about it. 13A was, it was a 1987 story, you know. It was started in 1987. The whole thing was brought in. Now, from 87 to 24, we have gone through 37 years, and a lot of things have changed. So, whether we can rethink about 13A is another thing. Probably the President may take up that position, that we will rethink about it when we have the next this thing. He will endorse what Tilwin Silva has said about it. And then you can do that because when the Indian Constitution had special provision for Jammu Kashmir, the Mr. Narendra Modi and company there, they said in the interest of economy and for development and for security, we would like to abrogate Article 370 and 35A because situations have changed or situations have to be changed. So we will do that, and they changed it. So likewise, we also can sometimes do that.
Before we go into a set of questions on the administrative structure, I'd like to ask you whether Sri Lanka navigating our position in the region with our geopolitical importance can be secured and capitalized through the political gains that President Anurukumara Dissanayake has achieved, and whether he can take this advantage in the region to maximize it for the benefit of Sri Lanka with the dealings with China, India and the United States.
I think he will, with this economic situation here, we have to be working with almost all the political powers in the world. It can't be only India, it can't be only China, it can't be only America. We have to work with a lot of people. And then he has to be, now he is in India, I think this weekend he is going to India, and then he will have to discuss issues. And Indians are sometimes, they offer help. Now, I know they at one stage there's a fund in the Indian budget which is given to the neighborhood countries. Of course, neighborhood countries, when they say neighborhood countries, they don't treat every neighborhood country similarly. Now, for example, when I was there as a High Commissioner, I worked out there from 2009 to 2019 or so, 10 years, I calculate the total amount of money we have received under this budget, Indian budget. The total amount, we say X amount. The money which are given to Bhutan for 2019-2020 was more than what we have received for 10 years. So Indians can be very selective on this type of situation. But it has to be that because they decide on it on the need to keep other countries happy, because they have the Chinese problem from the northern boundary. So the countries which are in the northern boundary, Nepal, Bhutan, all those places, they try to keep them in good spirit, and they give money. But for us in southern tip, we are not creating problems for them, so they don't give. I think, but at the same time, don't forget, they gave $450 million to Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa. I don't know whether he will give, Mr. Modi will give a chunk to this one. So, but only thing is, you must not consider this only with India, because the Indian Ocean region, it has the Chinese, it has the Americans, it has the Cod people, all these countries have interest. For Chinese have the interest because about 65 or 70% of their oil goes through the Indian Ocean. So therefore, they want to have some sort of a hold, and their goods are sold, they are sent from this way. So Indians, they also want to have their own strength. That is why they are helping Mauritius and things like that. Then when you come to Chinese, they have at Djibouti, they have a port. In Gwalior, they have a port. In Hambantota, although they don't have a port at that time, but they have some hold on Hambantota. Then you have other countries also. So the string of pearls situation is there. So whatever government comes to power, they have to be considerate of what the Chinese are doing, what the Indians are doing, what the Americans are doing. They have to be considerate.
Certainly. I think that's all the time we have, but I must ask you this question. You are a veteran administrator. We must talk about the private sector as well. Former presidents, governments have continually sought to work with the private sector, and the current president has even made some major appointments with private sector personnel. How do you think this combination of the private sector involvement, whether this will actually look at even reviving some of our state-owned enterprises and the administrative structure of the government sector?
No, state-owned enterprise is a headache. It's a burden. Because the treasury is paying their salary, they are paying even their bonus, I think. So everything is given by the treasury. So the treasury can't be going on like this. So they have to be got rid of, in the sense, the way how you get rid of them is a different one. It can be joint ventures, it can be handed over to the private sector, it can be revived with other things, it can be given to a foreign country for that matter. Whatever ways, there are so many ways of handling it. So they must do that. And then the private sector, there's no way that state sector can do all those things what they want, what we require to be developed in this country. If the private sector has to do that, it must be once again joint ventures. It must be otherwise, it may be total investments from foreign countries. But then if you have a joint state-owned enterprise, which is a burden to billions like the Sri Lanka or something like that, people will not take it without someone taking that burden off. So private sector will come, and private sector will always do that in a way to maximize profits which they invest. That is what your company is doing for that matter. It's a maximizing of profit. So for that there are several restrictions we are faced with. Those things have to be taken up. Whoever the power, whether it is Mr. Anurukumar Dissanayake or any other person, they have to change the systems, and then the structures have to be changed to suit the private sector when the private sector is expected to come and work in certain areas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Austin Fernando, for your time here at Hyde Park. I was just looking at your profile also to see how I can summarize this. Yeah. Quite a number of areas that you've worked in the administrative service, starting off as land officer, you've taught and you've worked in India, China, Nepal, and extensively as advisor to the president and some government agencies as well as ministries too. I don't think I would do justice if I just quote one or two of your experiences, but thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your expertise and your knowledge with us here at Hyde Park.
Thank you for calling me.
We've been in discussion with Mr. Austin Fernando, former High Commissioner of Sri Lanka in India and a Secretary to the President, and as I mentioned before, a veteran administrator in Sri Lanka. We'll see you again next week with yet another discussion here at Hyde Park. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.